Good afternoon. Well, it's Sunday in paradise. I feel like I'm walking in a steam bath. Uh, Not a lot of wind, but it's like in the 80s, so it's not the worst that it could be. You can see it's cloudy. There have been sprinkles, but it doesn't yet show. So, what do we got to talk about? There's a lot going on. Uh, it's hard to cast any of it as really good. It's a struggle. For example, I'm in Virginia, and across the Potomac is Maryland. And Hogan is the outgoing governor who fought with the Democrats, but I guess I guess Republicans would say he was a Republican in name only because he tried to get some things done. But he had enough terrible policies, and he's thinking of running for president. So his heft for any other candidate is light because in the primary that's going to happen on this Tuesday, they're going to look for the real Trump protege. And that's a guy named Dan Cox who's taken it all in hook, line, and sinker. And the opponent is Kelly Schultz. And Kelly Schultz, she served in the Hogan administration. So that's kind of the lineup. Now, what's the newsworthy about this? Well, I heard Trump talking on behalf of Cox, and I think running down Schultz before the primary. So the significance is he is working on a statewide election, supporting a candidate, and he'll be seeking the support of these people he's helping in these state races, well, this year, and then when he announces. Now, the Republicans don't want him to announce in September because they're afraid it will hurt their general elections. So what are the Democrats doing? The Democrats aren't doing state races. They're telling people, go off and vote for the senator, our nominee, go vote for the congressperson. But this is an all-fronts war. And if you can believe what you read and what some people say conversationally when you talk to them on the phone or whatever, the Democrats have got a focus on the House and the Senate, but they're ignoring this buildup that Trump is getting from these state races. So that's a little distressing. And if you squint at the issues that work the best for us, number one has got to be the overturning of Roe v. Wade and all the consequences that follow from that. I think I mentioned once before that Holly had an ectopic pregnancy. And obviously it resolved itself well and she had a miscarriage. But today in Michigan, if you have an ectopic pregnancy, they get concerned about invoking all the provisions that have to do with an abortion, even though a woman obviously has no control, did not choose to have an ectopic pregnancy. And so Republicans in Michigan and elsewhere literally believe that a woman should take her chances and die if the ectopic pregnancy doesn't resolve itself with a miscarriage. And in other places, I think it's Kansas, there's a medicine that they use, the postpartum medicine, and they didn't prescribe it to one patient, and they didn't because it's used in abortions, and they didn't want to be fingered, if you will, and the woman went for 11 days bleeding because they wouldn't use this medication. This is going to happen all over America. But I think the combination of the actual terrible things that are as a result of Roe v. Wade are I think they're less important than the symbolism corresponding to the political reality that this is a strike against women. And that has got to be a big issue in this campaign. And that can be a winning issue. It's hard to think we would thank Alito for giving us the issue that we weren't able to put our finger on, but I think that's our issue, and that's the one we should use. Now, yesterday I was lucky to be at a gathering of Democrats in Virginia, And we had a lot of young people, and they were going to go out and they were going to pass literature and so forth. And there was a young woman, and I thought she was younger than she was, but she was 22, which goes to show how good my eyes are. But I think she looked younger. And I told her that one of the reasons I wore a jacket and tie when I was younger is because in my 20s I looked like I was 17. And I thought it made me look older. It just made me look like a young kid wearing older clothes. But I started passing out literature at 6, and I asked her what provoked her to be interested. And of course, it was women's rights at her young age. And she was applying for positions, and she was working on a campaign, and she was working on Congresswoman Wexton's campaign in Northern Virginia. And Jamie Raskin had come over to help Jennifer Wexton run for office, and he gave a great stump speech, and we had some conversation, light conversation, casual conversation, and that's what is going to make the difference in the fall. Now, Wexton is an outstanding candidate, but it looks like she's going to have a fight because in the governor's race, there's only a 2-point division in the area that is the congressional district she represents. So that gives you some handicapping on a state that's been trending blue and maybe push back to purple because of the governor's attack on discrimination and women and a variety of these culture issues while ignoring how they take away liberty and freedoms. I've been casting about for how do we characterize this election? And maybe we don't say it on the stump, but it goes to our thinking about who we support in the election and how we support them and how enthusiastically we do. If the choice is Trump and Trump mimics and Trump loyalists and the cultish following that is so dangerous to the country, and anybody supports him either by actively supporting him or not voting for an alternative, you have a situation in which you have a political abyss if democracy matters to you. Now, Biden's not up this year, but don't kid yourself. Incumbency matters a great deal. Being known, being vetted, and making errors. I think it would be fair to say that Biden is a man who's gifted with resolve and caring, and there are the issues he has, and he's a good man, but for all the good he's done, and he has done a lot of good, he makes errors. Our question as Democrats and as voters, making a calculation that some found easy when he went to the Middle East, and I did not. But I find it easier to say that we do not want to support any candidate, like Cox in Maryland or any of these other terribles, and thereby give heft, if you will, to an autocracy, to people who have no care for women and have so many other bad positions because they have no soul, and whatever they once had, they've sold out. Versus Biden, who is working himself to the bone to try to be what we need, and he is. Sometimes he is, and perhaps more often than not. But there's something about us as humans where, myself included, we can see the negative easier than the positive. But when you squint at these two sides, you have to stand with Biden, even as you tell him you're in error and we have to correct it. So we have an evil man and an evil force in the country versus a good man who's seeking to preserve and uplift the soul and to return the republic to its former position, who makes errors. And we have to stand by Biden I'm not saying there isn't something he could do that would turn us all away. But I think the central issue is that our sisters, our mothers, our daughters, our friends are what this election is all about. And if it's about that, we win. We win the House and we may win the Senate, because these animals that are running on the Republican ticket with the support of Trump are just that. And when people, civilized people, have to vote on the future of their country and their family and their community, they'll want something that will persist. And Biden, with all his bruises and errors, he's that man. And all the Democrats, they are the men and women who can take us to the finish line. And so that's what we got to work on. We have learned through life, at whatever age you are, to adapt. And we have to adapt and find our ways to fight. And not just in the federal elections, but where you have one in the state elections. So that's what I'm thinking on this wonderful muggy Sunday in the Cathedral of Trees. So I hope you had a wonderful day, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.